The great hall of the Aurelian Palace glittered with alien opulence. Towering crystalline pillars stretched toward the vaulted ceiling, glowing softly with violet light. Nobles from dozens of star systems filled the chamber, their ornate robes shimmering with symbols of power and heritage. Tonight was meant to be a celebration, the royal wedding of Princess Illyria of the Luminary Empire. But the mood was far from celebratory, because the groom was human. Whispers rippled through the crowd like a cold wind. A human. Truly, they are barely a spacefaring species, primitive creatures, fragile and emotional. The nobles laughed behind jeweled fans and glowing masks, their amusement barely concealed. To them, humanity was a curiosity at best and an embarrassment at worst. At the center of the hall stood the man himself, Commander Adrian Vela Earth. He wore a simple ceremonial uniform, black with silver trim, the insignia of the United Terran Fleet resting proudly on his chest. Compared to the elaborate attire of the alien nobility, he looked almost plain, but he stood perfectly still, calm, watching. The princess entered moments later, her luminous silver gown flowing behind her like starlight. Princess Illyria was known across the empire for her intelligence and quiet strength. Many had expected her to marry a powerful warlord or a Noelo from one of the ancient species. Instead, she chose a human. The murmurs grew louder. One noble, a tall Virelian lord with elongated limbs and gleaming blue skin, stepped forward with a mocking smile. This is the famous human warrior, he said loudly enough for the hall to hear. The creature our princess believes worthy of royal blood. Laughter echoed across the chamber. Adrian didn't react. The nobles circled him slowly, inspecting him like a museum artifact. You're smaller than I expected, the Virelian continued. Tell me, human, is it true your species relies on crude metal weapons and outdated tactics? More laughter. Princess Illyria's expression hardened, but Adrian raised a hand slightly, stopping her from speaking. He finally looked at the noble. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet. Yes. The hall grew slightly quieter. Yes. Adrian repeated. The noble chuckled. How quaint. The galaxy moved beyond blades and primitive combat centuries ago. He leaned closer. And yet you stand here pretending to be worthy of a princess. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Adrian reached to his side. A faint metallic sound rang through the hall. Shing. A blade slid free from its sheath. It wasn't glowing plasma. It wasn't energy-based. Just steel. Simple. Deadly. The laughter stopped instantly. Adrian held the sword loosely at his side, the polished edge catching the palace lights. You see, he said calmly, humans didn't keep blades because we were primitive. His eyes swept across the silent nobles. We kept them because sometimes the old ways are the most reliable. A ripple of tension spread through the room. Several alien guards instinctively stepped back. The Virelian noble straightened, trying to maintain his composure. You would threaten nobility in the imperial court? Adrian tilted his head slightly. Noba, his grip on the sword tightened just enough for the metal to whisper again. I'm reminding you. The room held its breath. That human survived on a death world. He continued softly. A world full of predators stronger, faster, and deadlier than us. His gaze sharpened. And yet we're still here, but no one laughed now. Because we learned something very early, Adrian said. The sword lowered slightly. Never underestimate the quiet one in the room. For the first time tonight, the nobles began to realize something. The princess hadn't chosen a weak groom. She had chosen a survivor, and across the silent hall of the empire, the human was the most dangerous being in the room. The royal palace was hosting the wedding of Princess Illyria, and every hall within the vast structure shimmered with impossible beauty. Towers of crystal rose toward the starlit ceiling, glowing softly with silver and violet light, while banners bearing the ancient crest of the Luminary Empire drifted slowly in the still air. Nobles from across the galaxy had gathered for the occasion, their elaborate robes and ceremonial armor displaying the pride of civilizations thousands of years old. Conversations echoed to the grand chamber as diplomats, generals, and aristocrats whispered behind jeweled masks and shimmering veils. Yet despite the splendor and celebration, an unusual tension lingered among the guests, because this was not just another royal wedding. Princess Alindra, the most admired daughter of the empire, had chosen a groom unlike any other expected by the noble houses. Standing near the center of the hall was a single human, Commander Adrian Vale of Earth, dressed in a simple dark uniform that seemed almost plain compared to dazzling attire surrounding him. To many in the court, humanity was still considered a young and reckless species born from a violent world and known more for stubborn resilience than refined culture. Some nobles watched him with curiosity, others with open amusement, quietly mocking the idea that a human could stand beside a princess of one of the oldest empires in the galaxy. But Adrian Vale stood calmly beneath their judging eyes, his posture steady and his expression unreadable, as if the whispers meant nothing to him at all. Princess Alindra soon entered the chamber, her luminous gown flowing like liquid starlight behind her, and the room slowly fell silent as every gaze turned toward the royal heir. She walked with quiet confidence, her silver eyes meeting Adrian's without hesitation. And for a brief moment, the noise of the court faded away completely. The nobles expected uncertainty, embarrassment, perhaps even regret from the princess, but there was none in her expression. Instead, there was only certainty. In that silent exchange between princess and human, something became clear to those watching closely. This union had not been arranged by politics or desperation. It had been chosen, and though many of the gathered nobles still believed the human standing beside her was nothing more than an amusing mistake, none of them yet understood the truth that would soon become impossible to ignore. The quiet man from Earth had survived a world far more dangerous than any court in the galaxy, and the Empire was about to learn exactly what that meant. Nobles from many alien worlds gathered inside the grand hall, filling the vast chamber with colors, shapes, and voices from civilizations scattered across the stars. Tall crystalline pillars glowed softly along the walls, casting shifting patterns of light over elaborate robes, armored cloaks, and ceremonial crown represented ancient houses and powerful star systems. Some of the guests were towering beings with long, elegant limbs and glowing eyes, while others were smaller and wrapped in shimmering fabrics that changed color with every movement. Conversations drifted through the air in dozens of languages and translated quietly by hidden devices so that every whisper, laugh, and murmur blended into a constant hum of diplomatic curiosity. Many had traveled across entire sectors of the galaxy to witness the royal wedding of Princess Alindra. Enough, a union expected to strengthen alliances and reshape the balance of power within the Luminary Empire. Yet beneath the polite smiles and formal greetings, a current of intrigue moved through the crowd because rumors had spread long before the ceremony began. The princess had not chosen a groom from any of the ancient noble houses or powerful alien dynasties present in the hall. Instead, she had chosen a human. Enough, as the nobles continued to gather and observe the grand stage where the ceremony would soon begin, more than a few curious eyes searched the chamber, eager to see the strange outsider who had somehow captured the attention and perhaps the heart of one of the most important figures in the empire. The atmosphere was filled with whispers and quiet laughter as nobles leaned closer to one another, hiding their amusement behind elegant masks and jeweled hands. Soft murmurs drifted through the vast hall like a restless breeze, carrying fragments of gossip and disbelief from one corner of the chamber to another. Some spoke with curiosity enough, while others could barely hide their mockery, their eyes occasionally glancing toward the center of the room, where the unusual groom was expected to stand. To many of the gathered aristocrats, the situation seemed almost absurd, a story that would be repeated across star systems for years to come. A princess of one of the oldest and most powerful empires in the galaxy marrying a human was not something the noble houses had ever imagined. And the contrast between their ancient tradition and humanity's young reputation only fueled the quiet jokes spreading through the crowd. A few nobles shook their heads in disbelief, while others smirked openly, convinced that the entire affair was little more than a strange political experiment that would soon become a royal embarrassment. Yet beneath the laughter and whispered remarks, there was also a trace of curiosity that none of them would admit aloud, because somewhere in the back of their minds lingered a single question that no one had yet answered. What kind of human could stand calmly in a room filled with the most powerful beings in the galaxy and show no sign of fear at all? Many nobles were mocking the groom because he was human, their quiet laughter carrying a tone of superiority that echoed through the grand hall. To them, humanity was a young and reckless species, one that had only recently stepped onto the galactic stage and had not yet earned the respect given to the ancient civilizations surrounding them. A few nobles exchanged amused glances. They whispered among themselves, making subtle gestures toward the place where the human would soon stand beside the princess. Some questioned how such a fragile species could possibly belong within the royal bloodline of the Luminary Empire, while others joked that perhaps the princess had chosen him out of curiosity rather than wisdom. Their voices remained low, careful not to openly disrespect the royal ceremony, but the mockery was impossible to miss for anyone paying attention. In their minds, a human was little more than an outsider from a violent world, a species known for stubborn survival rather than noble heritage or refined tradition. The idea that one of them could become the husband of a galactic princess seemed almost laughable, and many of the nobles treated the situation as an amusing spectacle rather than a historic moment. Yet as the murmurs continued and the subtle smile spread across the gathering of aristocrats, enough, none of them seemed to realize that the human they were ridiculing might be far more dangerous than the polite court atmosphere suggested. They believed humans were weak and not worthy of royalty, a young species born in a harsh and chaotic world that had only recently begun to explore the wider galaxy. And to the ancient noble houses gathered in the palace, true power came from centuries of tradition, advanced civilizations, and bloodlines that stretched back thousands of years. Humanity, by comparison, seemed crude and unrefined, no more for its relentless survival instincts than for elegance or royal heritage. Many of the nobles quietly convinced themselves that a human could never truly belong within the imperial family, no matter what titles or honors he might carry. In their eyes, a royal partner should represent the strength and dignity of the empire, someone whose lineage reflected the greatness of their civilization. A human, they believed, could never meet those expectations. Their opinions were shaped by old reports and distant observations that described Earth as a dangerous world filled with conflict and struggle, a place where survival required toughness rather than sophistication. Because of this, the nobles saw humanity as an inferior species, one that might serve as soldier explorers, but certainly not as equals to the ruling bloodlines of the galaxy. Confident in their assumptions, and now they dismissed the human groom before even meeting him, certain that Princess Alindra had made a mistake that would soon become painful, obvious to everyone in the room.